So I've been working on my authorization service, and it's totally sweet. It's only taken me 6 months to build it. Just 6 months. I started implementing some basic RBAC library, but that wasn't enough, obviously. So I designed relationship-based, fine-grained authorization for the highest security possible. And then, to make it super fast, I used a GPU tower, running in my mom's basement, of course, connected via optic cable to bare metal server at my local esports lounge, permissions, restrictions, and admin. Nailed it.
Wait. Whatever you did sounds cool, but there's also another option.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Permit.io. Permit is the full-stack authorization platform created so you never have to build permissions again. Build and manage permissions for any application with policy as code, APIs, developer-friendly SDKs, and user-facing UIs. Permit is an end-to-end authorization platform built on top of open-source policy engines. It's high-performing, gets decisions in less than 10 milliseconds, and uses a hybrid approach where config is in the cloud, but data and decisions are made locally. Not only is it intuitive, it lets you implement fully functional authorization in 5 minutes, not 6 months, and in the code base you prefer. Check out the link in the show notes or go to permit.io to learn more. That's permit.io. Sign up for Permit and stop rebuilding auth.
It's on the nose. I actually have an entire chapter in my book, The Startup CTO's Handbook, on exactly this topic. Coming into a team or an organization as a leader, what is your agenda? What's your checklist? What are your priorities early days? And the framework that I offer, the way I think about it, is if you're promoted into a leadership position, you likely already have the context. And so your focus is on picking up all those leadership elements, trying to put the pieces together, so to speak, and not rock the boat. Right? My ideas are not necessarily the right ideas, right? It's about building an organization where the collective whole can be fantastic. My name is Zach Goldberg. I'm the CTO of Gruntwork and the author of the Startup CTO's Handbook.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
It took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
The company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Zach Goldberg is joining the world-class team at Gruntwork to help you define your infrastructure with code in about a day. This episode is sponsored by Kiteworks. Legacy-managed file transfer tools lack proper security, putting sensitive data at risk. With Kiteworks MFT, companies can send automated or ad hoc files in a fully integrated, highly secure manner. The solution is FedRAMP Moderate authorized by the Department of Defense and has been so since 2017. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. This episode is sponsored by ClearQuery. ClearQuery is the Analytics for Humans platform. With their full suite of features, you can go from data ingestion to automated insights seamlessly. With Ask ClearQuery, you can find valuable insights into your data using plain English. Don't miss the opportunity to simplify your data analytics with ClearQuery. Get started today at clearquery.io/codestory. Zach Goldberg was sent to computer camp when he was 12 years old. An interesting part of the story is that the prior year, he went to sports camp, and it didn't go so well. At the computer camp, he fell in love with tech and eventually became a counselor. He finds the most joy and impact at the intersection of business and technology. But outside of tech, he's married and a private pilot in California. He also admits to being a total geek, getting very excited about installing a solar panel on his roof. Up to code, of course, and with the permission of his wife. A few months ago, Zach was introduced to the founders of his current company through the executive coaching and consulting he does. They all had great conversations around approaches to DevOps and what the future of the industry is, so much so that he decided to join the team and lead the conversation. This is Zach's creation story at Gruntwork.
Gruntwork is a DevOps and infrastructure company. If you're not familiar with the phrase, DevOps is really all things cloud infrastructure. So your continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines, managing your cloud compute, your cloud storage. It's a B2B company, so we help other companies with their DevOps postures. Gruntwork's most recent product is called Devops Foundations, and it's for enterprises that are looking to level up their standard operating procedures, their security posture, their compliance posture related to cloud infrastructure. I imagine a lot of the audience will feel the pain of thinking about, is my infrastructure really as secure as it should be? Would we pass all the audits we might be asked to pass in the near future? It's a lot to manage. And so Gruntwork provides tools, processes, and a bit of professional services to help organizations get on top of those problems. I was introduced to Josh Padnick, the CEO of Gruntwork, a few months ago. As part of the coaching work I do, he was interested in having a conversation around some changes to the organization and building out the technical team. And I've always had a passion for DevOps. Even though none of the companies I've been a leader at were in the DevOps space itself, it's always something I've been following. I was an early Terraform user, an early Kubernetes user. So I was talking to Josh. The challenges he was facing from a leadership perspective were very interesting, but also I just love the space. I've always been passionate about it. And we've had really good conversations around what is the cutting edge of DevOps? What should best practices be? Gruntwork is known for TerraGrunt, of course, as well as TerraTest, two very common tools in the space. And what is the future going to look like, especially given the Terraform OpenTofu split as a result of the HashiCorp license changes a few months ago? It's a very interesting time in DevOps, and I'm very excited and honestly honored and privileged to be a part of that conversation and to help move the industry forward in a way that enables developers, enables companies to manage their infrastructure in a reasonable way. That gives them the confidence that they need.
So let's dive into what would be, your MVP at Gruntwork, right? Normally I ask around like minimum viable product of that first version of Gruntwork, but this is a little bit further down the road. What is going to be your first initiative? What are you going to build as your first MVP?
This product, Devops Foundations, that Gruntwork sells, it's a suite of tools that work together to provide the security, compliance, and operational posture that IT executives and technology executives are looking for at enterprise scale. So there's a lot of pieces there, and Gruntwork's a small company. We are in the perhaps fortunate or unfortunate, depending on your perspective, position of having more projects than we have people. And so a lot of my challenge is really working with the team to understand what are our gaps, what are the main features that we need to offer that we don't offer today, what are our customers need, what's really going to move the needle in terms of our ability to deploy these tools for our customers to operationalize the tools themselves, and also the state of the art of the industry. I think everybody probably agrees that it's possible to have a pretty high quality DevOps setup nowadays. There's a lot of tools, a lot of vendors, but it's rapidly evolving. I think everybody agrees 5 years from now, the tools we use, the best practices will be different from what they are today. And so a lot of my work with Devops Foundations is, of course, prioritizing what our customers need now, but also putting together a roadmap of what's the industry, or what can Gruntwork do to move the industry forward over the coming years. I think we've got a lot of good stuff that's cooking in the kitchen and can't wait to deploy it to the world.
Even in early days of when you're taking on, a new role, a new initiative, and maybe in some of those conversations you were having with the founders of Gruntwork, you got to make certain decisions and trade-offs, or there are learnings and findings or things that really craft the approach, right? So tell me about some of those that you've gone through, that you're processing through, and how you're coping with those decisions.
Yeah, I really do appreciate this question. And it's on the nose. I actually have an entire chapter in my book, The Startup CTO's Handbook, on exactly this topic. Coming into a team or an organization as a leader, what is your agenda? What's your checklist? What are your priorities early days? And the framework that I offer, the way I think about it, is if you're promoted into a leadership position, you likely already have the context. And so your focus is on picking up all those leadership elements that have now been handed to you or that are now part of your job description. If you're coming into an organization as a leader, I'm being hired because I have a background as a technical leader, but I'm lacking all of that organizational context, the context around people. And so my early days at Gruntwork are all about building a map of where we are today and a roadmap for where we go forwards. Right? So it's a lot of listening, trying to put the pieces together, so to speak, and not rock the boat. Right? My ideas are not necessarily the right ideas. Right? It's about building an organization where the collective whole can be fantastic and is incredibly productive. It's not about my productivity per se. It's about my ability to build an organization that delivers productivity, velocity, innovation, and insight. So that means not coming in on day one and blowing everything up. It means working with the team in those first couple months to understand where things are at and collaboratively make the changes that everybody agrees point the ship in the direction that we all feel it needs to go.
This episode is sponsored by Kiteworks. Legacy managed file transfer tools are dated and lack the security that today's remote workforce demands. Companies that continue relying on outdated technology put their sensitive data at risk. And that's where Kiteworks comes in. Kiteworks MFT is absolutely the most secure MFT on the market today. It has been FedRAMP moderate authorized by the Department of Defense since 2017. Through FedRAMP, Kiteworks' level of security compliance provides a fast route to CMMC compliance, saving customers time, effort, and money. Kiteworks MFT makes it easy for users to send automated or ad hoc files via fully integrated shared folders and email. Administrators can manage policies in a unified console and create custom integrations using their API. Did we mention it's secure? The level of security with Kiteworks solution is rare to find. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. That's KITEWORKS.com. This episode is sponsored by CacheFly. The web is a competitive place, and if your site delivers its content pixelated, slow, or not at all, well, then you lose. But that's where CacheFly comes in. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 159% faster than other major CDNs. Through ultra-low latency streaming, lightning-fast gaming, and optimized mobile content, the company offers a variety of benefits. For over 20 years, CacheFly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. While competitors call themselves fast or use cute animal names, only CacheFly holds the record of being the fastest and serves customers like Adobe, the NFL, or Roblox, where content is created by users and must be delivered in real time. For the first time ever, Code Story listeners can get a 5 terabyte CDN for free. Yep, you heard that right, free. Learn more at cachefly.com/codestory. That's CACHEFLY.com/codestory. You've joined the company, you're jumping into your first initiative. I'm curious about either how the company is doing this or how you are going to do it. Build your, what would be the roadmap? Like, what would be the plan of how you're going to execute? And I'm curious about how you do that and, what sort of criteria you're using to decide this is the next most important thing to build or to address.
I think of technical planning in terms of 3 different, I call them horizons. Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and Horizon 3. Horizon 1 is exactly the question you just asked. What do we need to do next? My next sprint, my next set of tickets, whatever cadence the company is using. What are my short-term priorities? Horizon 2 is my near-term, right? So maybe that's this quarter or even the remainder of this year. And that's usually I have contracts with customers or there's features that we know we want to build. And then Horizon 3 is really my strategic roadmap. So that's 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 years. What direction do we want to move the organization? What direction do we want to move our technology? What are our innovations that we can start laying the groundwork for now, which might bear fruit 2 or 3 years down the line? And so specifically to answer your near-term question, it's a balance of being customer-focused. What do our customers need that our product doesn't do? And also being mindful of what does our company need? What does our developer team need? And so it's maybe even 50, 60, 70% customer focused. But I'm a huge believer in investing in the team itself. I think the way you build a high performance team is by continually putting effort into moving towards a high performance team. And so that means investments in developer experience, investments in debt, investments in tooling. As a company, we hire engineers because we think they're smart, creative, brilliant, and we think they can solve problems. and I want to enable them and give them all of the right foundations to do their best work. That means they're not fighting their tools, they're not fighting build systems, they're not unable to use whatever the best-in-class SaaS service is for testing or solving whatever other problem. I want them all to have the best pickaxes, best jackhammers, best IDEs possible so they can exercise those creative muscles and actually spend their time delivering the creative work that is customer value, right? And thinking through the right way to do that. So the short-term roadmap is a balance, again, just to summarize, of customer needs and what our team needs.
Okay, so I hear you referencing team, and I'm curious about if you have to expand your team, how you're going to do that, or if you're having to organize a team or lead a team. I'm curious about that, and I'm curious about what you look for in people to indicate that they are the winning horses to join you.
Gruntwork as an organization firmly believes that talent is distributed globally, but opportunity is not. We are a remote organization. We strongly believe that we should be hiring the best people and the best fit for the role, regardless of where they are. There are, of course, logistical limitations. So we do have a preference for time zones. Gruntwork is a North American time zone focused organization. But as far as what country you live in, what state you live in, that's not relevant, right? What matters to our organization is what experiences do you have, what talents and knowledge have you invested in, and do you bring to the table? We could probably talk for hours about hiring. Again, this is a subject covered in many chapters in my book. I have a lot of thoughts on engineering hiring process and how do we correlate hiring process success with on-the-job success. The long and short of it is you're looking for somebody who has the right skills match. So if you're, for example, hiring a backend engineer, you probably want somebody who has some experience in backend engineering and has experience thinking about the kinds of problems that you're interested in, and also a human fit, right? It's often called a culture fit. For example, comfortable working in a remote organization, that would be important to Gruntwork, but also somebody who has the right natural tendencies. There are a lot of personality surveys you might be familiar with, for example, Myers-Briggs as a way of labeling or identifying personality traits. These things do matter. There are some roles within the organization where I do need somebody who is, or the organization needs somebody who is very detail-oriented. They're going to take their time, they're going to follow the checklist, they're never going to deviate from the checklist, and they're comfortable with that. That's where they're comfortable working. And there's other times when I want to hire somebody who's going to look at the checklist and say, this is crazy, I think we could do this better. And they're going to blow it up, and they're going to come up with a brand new checklist every week, and they're going to never be content until it's 100% perfect. In different scenarios, either of those people could be your superhero. An effective part of hiring is understanding which of those two or which of the many different personality types would be most successful in that role, combined with what skills and experiences this person need. And those are some of the raw ingredients necessary, for example, to get a great hire.
This episode is sponsored by CashFly. The web is a competitive place, and if your site delivers its content pixelated, slow, or not at all, well, then you lose. But that's where CashFly comes in. CashFly delivers rich media content up to 159% faster than other major CDNs. Through ultra-low latency streaming, lightning-fast gaming, and optimized mobile content, the company offers a variety of benefits. For over 20 years, CashFly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery. While competitors call themselves fast or use cute animal names, only CashFly holds the record of being the fastest and serves customers like Adobe, the NFL, or Roblox, where content is created by users and must be delivered in real time. For the first time ever, Code Story listeners can get a 5 terabyte CDN for free. Yep, you heard that right, free. Learn more at cashfly.com/codestory. That's CACHEFLY.com/codestory. Hello, welcome to the Data Analytics Club. Do you know the password? No, didn't know there was one. Do you know how to code? No. Do you know how to query data? Like, ask a question? I guess not. I see. Then you can't be in this club. Sorry. Goodbye. Don't be left out of the Analytics Club. ClearQuery is the Analytics for Humans platform. With their full suite of features, you can go from data ingestion to automated insights seamlessly. ClearQuery provides you with the information you need without requiring you to do the heavy lifting. Their Ask ClearQuery feature allows you to ask questions in plain English, helping you find relationships and connections in your data that may have previously gone unnoticed. You can even visualize your data with presentation mode, taking your data storytelling to the next level. Pricing is based on storage, not licenses, and that ensures that you get the most bang for your buck. Don't miss the opportunity to simplify data analytics, your data analytics, with ClearQuery. Get started today at clearquery.io/codestory. This will be interesting, and I'm curious where this is going to apply. Gruntwork has products, and they are deeply embedded into the DevOps and to scalability in the process there. And I guess my question is less about that, given you're just joining the team, and more about where does scalability fit into what you're going to accomplish at Gruntwork, pushing the industry forward. Tell me about that. Tell me about where your mind goes. If there are any areas where you're like, yep, I'm going to have to fight scalability in some capacity, either technology-wise or people-wise as I grow.
Gruntwork is in a position where our scale challenges, we don't ourselves, for example, host tens of thousands of machines and have terabytes of bandwidth. We don't have big data problems as an organization. We help other companies solve human and process logistic scale problems. There's an enormous push, as there really should be, for securing enterprise architecture across the planet. The rate of data breaches and data exfiltrations is astounding. It's scary. Literally every week, some big brand name Fortune 500 company leaks my data again. And so rightfully so, we're seeing major investments across the board in building processes, building technology to make these kinds of things harder to happen, to make it impossible for an innocent human mistake or human error to lead to the opportunity for data exfiltration. And so what Gruntworks business and what our products are all about is helping organizations at scale put processes in place that solve these kinds of problems. Make it such that it's not possible for a developer to create, for example, a new storage bucket that has permissions to be open to the world unless they have certain approvals, or that only certain IAM roles are allowed to do XYZ. And that's a very difficult thing to manage when you have, for example, 25 different development teams who each need their own infrastructure and who each have different products as part of a medium or large enterprise. How do you create a sense of consistency and standards that enforce compliance and security best practices when your 25 different product teams all have different needs? And they may have different cadences, they may have teams in different places with different cultures. And so it's a real challenge as the CTO of some, or CIO of some midsize or large enterprise, to create security confidence and security, a standardized security posture across a diverse team or heterogeneous team. That's part of the challenge that we want to solve and that we are actively working on solving with our customers, to make universal solutions or even custom tailored solutions to give everybody that confidence.
So, as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built. What are you most proud of?
I was the CTO of a company called GrowFlow for about 3 years. The company's business was selling compliance software for retail and wholesale businesses in the cannabis space. GrowFlow as a business, their problem that they were solving was making it easier to be compliant with those regulations. I was a hired-in CTO. The co-founder CTO, Tom, was really passionate about software engineering and was very humble in hiring an external people leader to lead the technical organization. During that 3 years, we grew the team by a factor of probably 4 or 5 in terms of people, by a factor of 8 to 10 in revenue. And we did that in this very human-focused, people-first mindset. We really cared deeply, myself and the other executives, about GrowFlow being a great place to work. Our company's mission was to be the most helpful company in cannabis, and that lended itself to building an employee culture of being helpful to one another. I've just never been in an organization where core values and mission were so impactful in how we treated each other on a day-to-day basis. We had phenomenal employee retention at that company. The number of employees that years later are still friends and still look back on working at GrowFlow as one of the best times in their career. It just brings me tremendous satisfaction and tremendous joy to have been part of creating a workplace that people just loved working at. And I want every company I work at to feel like that going forwards. I want everybody to have that opportunity to work at a company where you go home every day, you talk to your spouse over dinner, and you're not complaining about your coworkers. You're not complaining about the politics. You're instead saying, wow, I can't believe so-and-so they went out of their way to help me be successful. And I love my boss because they enable me to do my best work, and they're so supportive and they communicate really well. I think that's the future of work. Everybody deserves to have that kind of workplace environment. I'm really passionate about being the kind of leader and helping other leaders be the kind of leader that can create that workplace environment.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it throughout your tenure.
Can I give you 10 mistakes? We've been talking about GrowFlow. GrowFlow, like many companies, had tech debt. We had a particular code base that was running an older version of .NET, and anybody who's familiar with that ecosystem knows that going from, for example, .NET 4 to a .NET 5 or .NET Core ecosystem it's a meaningful transition. That's not something you do in a day. There's a lot of code that needs to change, APIs that have changed. And so we had an older .NET code base. The developers were not happy being in the legacy environment. And so we wanted a solution and an architecture that would enable everybody to feel like they could use more modern tools and to have a better developer experience. And that aligns with my belief that really focusing on developer experience is a key part of delivering high performance teams. We came up with a strangler pattern approach to deprecate this older code base. But the mistake we made was we didn't focus enough on making the new services independently deployable. And so we made the mistake of accidentally creating a distributed monolith. It took us a little while, a few months, to be like, wait, this isn't delivering the benefits we thought it would. And we sat down and we looked at what were our challenges. In particular, there was one service in particular we were creating and investing in that was tightly coupled to the original monolith in ways that we didn't want it to be in retrospect. And so we sort of backpedaled. We owned the mistake. We said, hey, we've created coupling here that we didn't want to. And we simply stopped investing in that service. We decided that it was better to face the pain of making those upgrades in the monolith itself than to be creating the distributed monolith. The distributed monolith is the worst of both worlds, where you have multiple services, but they're not independently deployable. There's tight coupling of contracts between them. And so now you have to deploy it all at once, but it's multiple services. And so you don't get the benefits of the independent deployability and of having more limited scope working on each service. And so that was painful. It was a mistake we made. We didn't think through the architecture of that service thoroughly enough. And yeah, it cost us some time. I think in the long arc of time, it works out. It did cost time and velocity, but we recovered and things move on.
Zach, what's the future look like for Gruntwork, for the product, and for your team?
Myself and Josh and the entire leadership team at Gruntwork, we really do believe in being a human-focused company where we value prioritizing our customers. We want our employees and customers to both feel like they love the company and that the company provides a lot of value. We're working on building that organization internally. We're rolling out this DevOps Foundation product more broadly. Depending on the date this podcast is released, there will be a new Gruntwork website that talks all about DevOps Foundations and the different ways it can be used and what kinds of companies would be a good fit. That really rolls into this idea of innovating on how companies protect their data and how companies ultimately protect their user data via these consistent security postures, consistent compliance posture. And we want to be innovators. We want to make it easy for developers to do the right thing and to be creating resources and infrastructure that they feel confident in. And that's easy for them to work with, most importantly. It shouldn't take a PhD in infrastructure to learn how to effectively deploy a cloud network with some compute inside. That should be something that is fairly standardized, your organization has an opinion on, that is secure and compliant. And I don't think we're there today. I don't think anybody, Gruntwork or any other company, has really solved the problem and made that bulletproof. But I look forward to what we've got coming out there and to the future where I think Gruntwork and other companies in the space that are pushing for this kind of stuff can create open standards, open tools that any company can use to create a fantastic developer experience that gives organizations confidence in their security and compliance postures.
Let's switch to you, Zach. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
So Sam Korkos is the CEO of Levels Health. And Sam, he's got lots of writing and he's done many podcasts. So if you haven't heard of him, a quick Google search will give you some of that content. Just an incredibly disciplined individual. I really admire in particular his focus on asynchronous culture. I've learned a lot about remote management and asynchronous teams from Sam. His implementation is very disciplined, very uncompromising. Even from that sort of uncompromising position or that disciplined position, there's a lot to learn that can be applied in other situations that are less disciplined. And I think that really focus on giving everybody the opportunity to be thoughtful about hard problems. It's very challenging, of course, in a group conversation with 7 people for everybody to really deeply engage their brains on the problem and to communicate and help move the conversation forward. Amazon, of course, has the 6-page memo. They don't do PowerPoint. They do everything as written narrative. You give everybody the opportunity to read the narrative in advance. So this is all in service of what I call working together separately, right? The ability for everybody to perhaps be in the same room or be working on the same problem, but to engage their minds independently. I've taken a lot of inspiration from Sam on how I run meetings, on the expectations I set for teams, for writing in particular, for writing specs, writing user stories, just documenting thought processes on problems the organization's facing. And I think holding a really high bar to encourage everybody to think these things through and really write them out and do that deep thinking is very powerful and saves a lot of time, honestly, right? If somebody has a problem and your response is, well, all right, really write down that problem, the circumstances around that problem, what solutions have you considered, really advances and accelerates the conversation. It gets everybody up to speed on the context way faster and enables you to have deeper, more productive conversations and have more well thought out solutions. And I really do credit Sam a lot for helping my thinking there. I've read a lot of his stuff, and I'm really fortunate that him and others like him continue to blog about this kinds of thing, and I think slowly move the culture at large in this sort of productive direction.
Last question, Zach. So you're getting on a plane, and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. Can't wait to show it off to you. Right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit and also having written a book around all this?
Wow. I love talking to these kinds of folks. As an entrepreneur, unless your name is Elon Musk, which apparently he can do things that nobody else can do, you really can only focus on one company at a time. You can only change the world with your efforts. You've only got so many hours in the day. And so to work with other entrepreneurs and help other entrepreneurs and hear their stories is very uplifting around the pace of innovation on the planet. And to be able to help other innovations along the way is really a privilege and something I really enjoy. So I love talking to that person. I think first and foremost, the journey itself is the reward. 80, 90, whatever statistic you want to quote, percentage of startups fail, right? Whether that's because the idea wasn't good or the execution wasn't good or the timing was wrong. There's a lot of headwinds facing every startup. So the most important thing is enjoy the journey along the way, give it your best, and treasure in the privilege that we all have to be able to try and change the world in these ways. And then second is, at the end of the day, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I'm not sure who I'm quoting there, but I'm quoting somebody who made that statement. And it's just so true. Your job as the entrepreneur is not to solve every problem. It's to build the organization that can solve the problems. And there's so many books on this subject. The most recent one I've been reading is Multipliers versus Diminishers is a great example. Your job is to be a multiplier. You want to multiply the skills of everybody on your team and have them sum up, or I guess multiply together to create a capability as an organization that far exceeds what you as the entrepreneur can do. An entrepreneur that micromanages and can't delegate, the organization's never going to be able to do more than just what that one person can do. And so building a healthy culture where people are collaborative, they're supportive, you're solving problems, thinking through things deeply, you're being thoughtful, customer focused, that is ultimately how execution works. That's what it is to be a strong operator. And somebody comes to you with $1 billion idea, that's amazing. There's a lot of $1 billion ideas. The gap between the $1 billion idea and the $1 billion valuation is a really tall mountain of execution. And so focusing your skills as an entrepreneur, like skill number one is, okay, have the idea and be in the position to be able to execute that idea and to take the time, start the company, and hopefully have the resources to start hiring people. You're then going to spend on average 5, 10, 15 years building a company. And building a company is a totally different set of muscles and it's a different set of skills than what got you to your idea, right? And so recognizing and having the humility that building companies is really hard. There's a lot of skills to learn, a lot of mistakes you're going to make. Fortunately, you'll be able to recover from most of them and try and short circuit and not make as many mistakes as you can, and enjoy that process, get really good at it. And if you're lucky, change the world.
Couldn't agree more. It's fantastic advice. Well, Zach, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Gruntwork and referring us to your book.
Thank you so much, Noah. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ12 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.